January 17, 1944. The early morning mist clings to the surface of the Pacific, a pale gray shroud stretching to the horizon. A solitary submarine, steel-hulled and silent, cuts through the cold waters off the coast of the Mariana Islands. Below deck, creaking beams and the faint hum of machinery are the only companions to the tense silence. Outside, the sun begins its slow climb, glinting off the waves, painting fleeting reflections on the conning tower. Inside the control room, gauges flicker and valves hiss. The crew moves with practiced precision, each man aware of the thin line between life and oblivion. A sonar ping echoes faintly through the hull, a heartbeat in the stillness. Somewhere ahead, Japanese freighters lumber through the waters, unaware that their lives and the supplies of a war are about to be imperiled. Every decision, every flick of a switch, could tip the balance between success and catastrophe. The captain peers through the periscope, scanning the horizon. 4 days, 5 enemy ships, and countless silent moments of dread lie ahead. The Pacific has never felt quieter or more lethal. The Pacific War in early 1944 was a vast chessboard of steel and fire. The United States had been at war with Japan for over 2 years, following the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, and the fight had shifted into a relentless battle for control of sea lanes, islands, and supply chains. American submarines prowled the waters from the Aleutians to the Philippines, invisible predators hunting convoys that carried fuel, ammunition, and food essential to Japan's war effort. By January 1944, the Imperial Japanese Navy was stretched thin. Carrier battles and losses at Midway, the Solomon Islands, and the Coral Sea had depleted Japan's experienced crews and left its supply lines exposed. The Japanese merchant fleet, vital to sustaining the islands scattered across the Pacific, sailed with minimal escort when necessary, relying on air cover and early warning networks. But the U.S. submarine force, though smaller in number, had grown deadly efficient. Lessons learned from earlier patrols, improvements in torpedo reliability, and advances in intelligence gathering, especially code-breaking, gave American submarines an edge that few Japanese commanders fully appreciated. The submarine designated for this patrol was a Gato class, a vessel of 311 feet in length, capable of 21 knots on the surface and silently gliding underwater at 9 knots. Her crew numbered around 80 men, a mix of veterans and fresh faces, each trained in every aspect of undersea warfare, from engine operation to torpedo maintenance. Command rested in the hands of a seasoned officer, known for his meticulous planning and calm demeanor under fire. Every patrol carried risk, but this mission demanded perfection. The assigned sector teamed with Japanese convoys, heavily laden and vital to the enemy's war economy. Below deck, the submarine was a labyrinth of narrow corridors, control panels, and valves. Air smelled faintly of oil and metal. The men moved in near silence, understanding that the enemy was never far away and that one misstep could be fatal. Above, the Pacific stretched endlessly, its surface deceptively calm. Ships would appear, disappear, and vanish again into the vast gray, unaware of the predator moving beneath them. The stage was set. The submarine's orders were clear: intercept, engage, and sink. But the reality of 4 days of continuous patrol, attacks, and counterattacks was a test not just of steel, but of human endurance. The patrol area was a critical stretch of ocean near the shipping lanes connecting Japan to its occupied territories in Southeast Asia. Convoys carried oil from the Dutch East Indies, rice from Indochina, and raw materials from Taiwan and the Philippines. For Japan, losing even a single freighter could ripple across their war effort, slowing production, starving garrisons, and weakening the front lines. Every shipment was precious, making these waters a target of relentless submarine activity. The Gato-class submarine assigned to this mission had orders to intercept convoys along the eastern approaches to the Philippine Sea. Intelligence reports indicated a series of heavily laden freighters scheduled to move within a narrow 4-day window. The enemy was expected to use standard defensive measures: 2 to 4 escort vessels per convoy, anti-submarine patrols from nearby airfields, and evasive routing based on previous attacks. But these measures were often predictable. Japanese tactics had not yet fully adapted to the stealth and persistence of American submarines. The submarine's commander, a veteran of multiple patrols, spent hours reviewing charts, plotting intercept courses, and coordinating torpedo loadouts. Torpedoes were the submarine's primary weapon, but each carried the potential for failure. Mechanical faults or depth errors could betray the attacker. The crew, drilled to near-automatic precision, knew that preparation was as important as luck. Every hatch, valve, and periscope adjustment could decide the difference between a successful strike and disaster. Below deck, tension was constant. Men took shifts at the sonar, listening for the faintest hum of propellers. Lookouts scanned the horizon through periscopes, catching glimpses of smoke or hulls that might indicate enemy vessels. In the cramped quarters, routine was essential: meals, maintenance, drills, and moments of quiet reflection. Each sailor understood that danger was never hypothetical. The ocean could kill as easily as it could conceal. By the evening of the first day in position, the submarine had established a silent watch along the convoy route. The Pacific, vast and indifferent, became both ally and adversary. The stage was ready for the unfolding drama: 5 enemy ships, 4 days, and a single submarine poised to challenge an entire naval network. The men waited, muscles coiled, senses sharpened. The hunt was about to begin. Life aboard a submarine was a constant negotiation with fear and fatigue. In the tight steel corridors, sailors brushed shoulders as they moved between stations, every step measured and precise. The air was heavy with oil, sweat, and the faint tang of salt water. Below deck, the hum of machinery was almost hypnotic, a reminder of the fragile heart of the vessel keeping them alive. Sleep was stolen in short bursts, often on metal bunks with a foot dangling into the narrow passageway. Meals were cold or hastily eaten, taken in shifts while the boat remained submerged. Yet camaraderie thrived in these confined spaces. Quiet jokes, small rituals, and whispered encouragement anchored the crew against the tension that never left them. Each man knew the gravity of their task: 4 days of relentless patrol, multiple attacks, and the thin margin between survival and annihilation. Fear was never absent, but it was disciplined. The submarine had no armor against depth charges. No room for error. Every sonar ping, every flicker of light through the periscope could be a harbinger of death. And yet, in this claustrophobic vessel, the human spirit endured. The submarine's effectiveness depended on meticulous planning and precise execution. Standard operating procedure dictated that attacks be executed from periscope depth, preferably at night, when the silhouettes of freighters were sharp against the faint horizon. Torpedoes were aimed to strike below the waterline, where damage would be catastrophic. Engagements required a careful balance of aggression and patience. Surfacing too soon could reveal the boat to escorting destroyers. Staying submerged too long risked running out of air or missing the target. Commanders relied on patterns observed from previous patrols, convoy formations, typical escort distances, and known choke points. The unpredictability of the sea, combined with the submarine's stealth, created opportunities, but only for those prepared to exploit them fully. In these waters, the smallest decision could decide the fate of the mission. Positioning, timing, and understanding enemy behavior were as crucial as the torpedoes themselves. Tactical awareness was not optional, it was survival. The Gato class was a marvel of mid-war engineering. Its diesel engines allowed rapid surface travel, while electric motors enabled silent underwater movement. Sonar systems offered crude but vital detection, picking up distant propeller noise or nearby obstacles. Torpedoes, once unreliable, had undergone improvements to reduce duds and ensure detonation on impact. Every piece of technology, however, required constant monitoring. A clogged valve or a misaligned gyro could ruin an attack. Crew members worked in shifts, checking torpedo tubes, monitoring depth gauges, and listening to sonar with painstaking attention. In the darkness, the submarine was a delicate orchestra of metal, hydraulics, and human skill, capable of great destruction, but vulnerable to the smallest error. These 3 angles together created the tension necessary for the patrol to succeed. Each human heartbeat, tactical decision, and technological adjustment was a thread in the unfolding drama. Command decisions were the linchpin of survival and success. The submarine's captain, seasoned by multiple patrols, understood the fine line between caution and audacity. Each maneuver, each decision to attack or hold fire rested squarely on his judgment. He studied charts and sonar reports, weighed intelligence on Japanese convoys, and anticipated enemy responses. Leadership extended beyond tactics. Maintaining morale, especially during long stretches of silence and uncertainty, was crucial. Orders were clear, discipline strict, but moments of quiet confidence reassured the crew. The captain's calm under pressure allowed the men to operate with precision, even as depth charges rumbled in distant waters. In 4 days of near-constant danger, effective leadership turned a collection of men into a single lethal entity beneath the waves. The Japanese Navy relied on convoy escorts and coastal patrols to protect its vital merchant fleet. Destroyers and smaller escorts formed a defensive perimeter around freighters, attempting to detect threats with hydrophones and sonar. Air reconnaissance supplemented naval patrols, though the vast Pacific made complete coverage impossible. Morale in the Japanese merchant fleet was precarious. Losses mounted, but reports of missing ships were often delayed or obscured by bureaucracy. Commanders relied on routine, expecting submarines to strike predictably, unaware of the skill and stealth of American boats. This overconfidence and procedural rigidity created exploitable gaps, which American submarine commanders had learned to anticipate. Submarine warfare was a cold calculus. Each torpedo fired meant destruction, death, and human suffering. Sailors below deck rarely saw the faces of those aboard targeted freighters, yet the consequences were immediate and absolute. The moral weight of each decision was compounded by the knowledge that the enemy ships were carrying supplies essential to Japan's war effort, not merely combatants. Yet the crew's focus remained disciplined. In the harsh reality of total war, effectiveness and survival took precedence. Acts of heroism, fear, and camaraderie intertwined, creating an invisible tension between duty and conscience. This moral dimension, largely unseen by those on land, underscored the human cost of undersea combat. January 17, late afternoon. The submarine had shadowed its first convoy for hours, maintaining a careful distance, the periscope a sliver above the water. 5 freighters moved in a staggered line, escorted by 2 destroyers that churned the sea behind them with constant vigilance. The sonar operator reported the faint thrum of propellers growing stronger with every minute. The captain assessed the situation. Torpedoes were readied, tubes loaded and carefully calibrated. Speed, angle, and distance had to be perfect. One miscalculation could alert the escorts and squander the opportunity. At 16:42, the command was given, prepare to fire. The first torpedo slipped silently from the tube, streaking beneath the water's surface toward the lead freighter. Moments stretched like hours. A muffled explosion shook the hull. Through the periscope, the freighter listed, smoke rising from its hold. The escorts began their frantic countermaneuvers, depth charges plummeting into the ocean with thunderous impact. The submarine dove deeper, engines straining, the steel hull vibrating under the shock waves. By nightfall, 2 more freighters were engaged. Using the darkness as cover, the submarine maneuvered into firing positions, launching carefully calculated spreads of torpedoes. One freighter broke in half, the other began to sink slowly, cargo spilling into the black waters. Crew below deck held their breath, listening to the distant crashes and the ominous ping of enemy sonar. The tension was relentless. Every decision carried immediate consequences. The Japanese escorts adapted, altering course, dropping additional depth charges, forcing the submarine into evasive patterns. Yet the crew remained focused, executing maneuvers with near-perfect precision. The first day had ended with 3 ships sunk and the enemy scrambling to locate the elusive attacker. The night brought temporary calm, but the captain knew the next 24 hours would be even more dangerous. Patrol reports indicated additional convoys moving into the area. Fuel, torpedo supply, and crew endurance were all finite. The 4-day stretch had begun, and the submarine had proven its lethality, but the real test lay ahead. January 18. Dawn broke over a restless sea. The submarine, now positioned ahead of a second convoy, moved silently beneath the gray waves. 2 heavily laden freighters and 3 escorts approached, unaware that a predator lurked beneath. The crew, exhausted but disciplined, went through the familiar rituals: periscope checks, sonar sweeps, torpedo tube inspections. Each man knew the hours ahead could decide life or death. 07:15, the first torpedo was launched. It struck the rear freighter, rupturing the hull, sending cargo and smoke into the cold air. The escorts reacted immediately, zigzagging toward the submarine's estimated location. Depth charges detonated in the surrounding water, the hull shivering under the shock. Below deck, men gripped handrails, muscles tense, ears ringing from the concussive blasts. The captain held his position, relying on experience and instinct to guide evasive maneuvers. Throughout the day, the submarine stalked targets, adjusting positions between attacks. Torpedoes found their marks again and again. By nightfall, the fourth enemy ship had been destroyed, each engagement a calculated orchestration of patience, precision, and courage. The Japanese escorts, frustrated and fatigued, dropped more depth charges, their sonar unable to confirm the submarine's location. January 1920. The final day of the four-day patrol demanded ingenuity. Fuel and torpedoes were limited, yet the captain identified a slower freighter trailing the main convoy. Under the cover of early morning haze, a precise torpedo spread was launched. The vessel broke apart in the water, the fifth and final kill in an unprecedented four-day streak. Exhaustion weighed heavily on the crew. The boat had survived relentless depth charge attacks, long hours of vigilance, and the psychological strain of constant danger. Below deck, silence fell once more, punctuated only by the hum of machinery. The Pacific stretched endlessly around them, indifferent to the violence that had just occurred. The 4 days of lethal, silent warfare had come to a close, leaving 5 Japanese ships destroyed and a crew forever changed by the intensity of their mission. The immediate consequences of the 4-day patrol were stark and undeniable. 5 Japanese ships, freighters critical to the transport of oil, rice, and military supplies, had been sunk, their cargo lost to the depths of the Pacific. Crew casualties on the freighters were significant, though exact numbers were often uncertain. Survivors spoke later of sudden explosions, ruptured hulls, and the terror of abandoning ship in stormy seas. The Imperial Japanese Navy responded with urgency. Convoy schedules were disrupted, and the remaining freighters were rerouted or delayed, slowing the movement of supplies to isolated garrisons. Escort vessels were reassigned to protect the affected lanes, and anti-submarine patrols intensified, stretching already limited resources. Reports filtered back to command. A single submarine had wrought disproportionate damage in a mere 4 days, demonstrating the growing vulnerability of Japan's maritime lifelines. On board the submarine, the mood was a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and quiet satisfaction. The crew began routine maintenance and resupply, checking torpedoes, engines, and electrical systems. Each man understood that surviving depth charge barrages, maintaining operational readiness, and achieving mission objectives was a rare combination of skill, discipline, and luck. Intelligence teams onshore compiled the results of the patrol. Tons of lost cargo, convoy routes disrupted, and the psychological impact on enemy crews were all assessed. For the U.S. Navy, the mission reinforced the effectiveness of its undersea campaign. Well-trained crews, advanced submarines, and precise tactics could strike devastating blows far behind enemy lines. The actions of this single submarine, over 4 relentless days, had altered the immediate operational environment in the Pacific. It was not just a tactical victory, it was proof that careful planning, human resilience, and technological precision could achieve results that larger surface fleets might struggle to replicate. The broader ramifications of the patrol extended beyond the immediate sinkings. Japan's logistical network, already under strain from previous American submarine campaigns, suffered further disruption. Fuel shortages, delayed ammunition deliveries, and scarcity of food supplies reached garrisons on remote islands, forcing commanders to ration and reorganize. The psychological impact on Japanese crews was equally profound. The knowledge that a single, unseen submarine could strike with devastating effect introduced a pervasive sense of vulnerability across the maritime fleet. Within the U.S. Navy, the patrol was analyzed as a textbook example of concentrated submarine effectiveness. Reports highlighted the precision of attacks, the careful use of stealth and terrain, and the ability of the crew to maintain operational efficiency under extreme stress. Lessons from the patrol influenced subsequent submarine doctrine. Reconnaissance, interception timing, and coordinated attacks on convoys became more refined, and the integration of intelligence data into tactical planning was emphasized. Casualties and destruction were quantified meticulously. 5 freighters had been removed from service, totaling tens of thousands of tons of cargo. The surviving Japanese escorts were fatigued and overextended, often unable to respond adequately to subsequent threats. Strategic supply routes had temporarily shifted, and the domino effect on Japan's war effort was immediate, as resupply delays forced operational adjustments across multiple fronts. For the crew, the aftermath was quieter but no less intense. Reports were written, equipment inspected, and the mental weight of 4 days of near-constant danger lingered. Letters home, rare moments of reflection, and the unspoken acknowledgement of risk underscored the human cost of undersea warfare. The mission had achieved remarkable results, but the experience left a permanent mark on every sailor who had endured it. The events of these 4 days were a testament to the lethal combination of preparation, precision, and perseverance, a prelude to the broader currents of the Pacific War that would continue to shift with every engagement. 4 days beneath the Pacific waves revealed the stark realities of modern naval warfare. A single submarine, steel and steel nerves combined, had demonstrated how skill, technology, and courage could bend the tide of battle. The destruction of 5 enemy ships was not just a tally of tonnage lost. It was a human story of vigilance, fear, and resilience, a microcosm of the larger war unfolding across the Pacific. The mission highlighted the silent power of undersea warfare. Surface fleets, once seen as the ultimate measure of naval strength, were vulnerable to unseen threats below. Submarine patrols disrupted supply lines, reshaped strategy, and imposed a psychological weight on both sailors and commanders alike. Every torpedo fired, every evasive maneuver executed, underscored the delicate interplay of human decision and mechanical precision. Yet amid the technical mastery, the human element remained paramount. Exhausted crews endured confined spaces, deafening shocks, and the constant awareness of mortality. Their courage and discipline transformed the submarine from a simple machine into an extension of human will, a vessel capable of extraordinary impact in an indifferent ocean. The legacy of this 4-day patrol is more than tactical. It serves as a reminder of the hidden struggles, the quiet heroism, and the moral complexity inherent in warfare. In the vast expanse of the Pacific, where silence and danger intertwined, one boat's mission left a mark far greater than its size, a testament to the relentless endurance and precision of those who serve beneath the waves.